A corrupt hospital administrator denies a black man a room for his dying mother. She sneers at his worn clothes and his quiet desperation, seeing only a nuisance to be swept away from the polished marble floors of her domain. But that administrator, a woman who believed she was a queen in her sterile kingdom, just made the biggest mistake of her career. She just tried to sweep away the man who owned the kingdom. This is the story of how one woman's arrogance, a poison she mistook for strength, led to her complete and total destruction. Eleanor Vance does not walk. She presides. Her every step is a declaration of ownership, her heels clicking against the terrazzo floors of St. Jude's Medical Center like a gavel calling her world to order. The hospital is not a place of healing to her. It is a portfolio. Her office on the top floor is less a workspace and more a throne room, walled in glass, offering a panoramic view of the city she believes she holds in the palm of her hand. The desk is a vast expanse of mahogany, kept sterile and clear, save for a single, platinum-framed photograph of herself shaking hands with the governor. It is a prop. A reminder to all who enter that they are in the presence of consequence. Eleanor herself is a woman carved from ice and ambition. Her blonde hair is sculpted into a helmet of professional severity. Her suits are tailored to be armor, sharp-shouldered and unforgiving. Her smile is a tool deployed with surgical precision to charm donors and disarm inspectors, but it never, ever reaches the cold, calculating blue of her eyes. She believes in a world of clean lines and clear hierarchies. There are the important people, the wealthy, the connected, the ones whose names adorn the wings of her hospital, and then there is everyone else. The others are statistics. Burdens on the system. Necessary evils to be managed, minimized, and, whenever possible, moved along. Today, she is in a particularly triumphant mood. The new Serenity Wing, her pet project, has just opened. It is a marvel of modern medicine and five-star luxury, with private suites that look more like hotel penthouses than hospital rooms. It is designed for the important people. A place where sickness can be endured with dignity, which to Eleanor is a synonym for wealth. She looks down at the lobby, a grand, sun-drenched atrium that feels more like a cathedral than an entrance to a hospital. Her gaze sweeps over the carefully curated environment, the calming water feature, the abstract art, the comfortable, modern furniture. And then, her eyes snag on a stain. A disruption in the perfect composition. A man. He sits on the edge of one of the designer couches, a dark, anxious shape against the cream-colored leather. His clothes are simple, clean but worn. A faded work jacket over a plain shirt. His hands are clasped tightly between his knees, his posture a study in suppressed panic. He does not belong here. This is Eleanor's first, immediate, and final judgment. Near him, an elderly woman lies on a gurney, a thin blanket pulled up to her chin. Her face is pale, etched with pain, her breathing shallow. A junior nurse hovers nearby, her expression a mixture of pity and frustration. Eleanor feels a familiar irritation prickle her skin. This is what the emergency room is for. This is what county hospitals are for. This lobby, her lobby, is for welcoming patrons, not for housing the indigent. She picks up her desk phone, her finger hovering over the speed dial for security. No. This requires a personal touch. A demonstration. She needs to remind her staff of the standards she expects. She strides out of her office, her presence descending upon the lobby like a cold front. The low hum of conversation falters as staff members notice her approach. They straighten their backs, avoid her gaze. They know that look. It is the look that precedes a termination. Marcus Thorne feels the change in atmosphere before he sees her. The air grows colder, tighter. He looks up from his mother's frail hand and sees the administrator bearing down on them. He has been here for 3 hours. 3 hours of quiet pleading, of being passed from one indifferent staffer to another. His mother, Evelyn, needs a room. She has a severe case of pneumonia, complicated by a lifelong heart condition. The emergency room doctor was clear, she needs immediate admission to a quiet, monitored environment. The new Serenity Wing is the only place with available beds and the right equipment. but a wall of bureaucracy, a wall with cold blue eyes, now stands before him. "May I help you?" Eleanor's voice is smooth, but it has the sharp, dangerous edge of broken glass. She does not look at Marcus. She addresses the space just above his head, as if speaking to a subordinate who is failing to manage a mess. The young nurse, Sarah, steps forward, her voice trembling slightly. "This is Evelyn Thorne. Dr. Miller from the ER says she needs immediate admission. Her vitals are unstable. We were told there is a bed available in the Serenity wing." Eleanor finally deigns to look down, her gaze flicking over Marcus's worn jacket, his tired face, and then to the pale woman on the gurney. Her expression does not soften. It hardens into something akin to distaste. "The Serenity wing is currently reserved for our patrons and benefactor-level donors," she says, her voice loud enough for everyone in the vicinity to hear. "There is a priority list. I'm quite sure this person is not on it." The word person is delivered with the weight of an insult. Marcus stands slowly. He is not a tall man, but he holds himself with a quiet dignity that seems to annoy Eleanor even more. "My mother's name is Evelyn Thorne," he says, his voice low and steady, a stark contrast to her brittle authority. "She needs medical care, not a luxury suite. We were told this was the only place with the necessary monitoring equipment." Eleanor allows a small, condescending smile to touch her lips. "Everyone believes their situation is an emergency, mister," she trails off, making it clear she has not bothered to learn his name and has no intention of doing so. "Thorne," he supplies. "Mr. Thorne," she continues, the name sounding foreign and unpleasant in her mouth. "We have protocols. The Serenity Wing has specific admission criteria. It was funded by very generous people who, in return, expect a certain level of service and a certain clientele. The meaning is unmistakable. You are not our clientele." Nurse Sarah, bless her earnest heart, tries again. But her condition is critical. It's a matter of medical necessity, not preference. Eleanor's head snaps toward the nurse. Her voice drops, becoming dangerously quiet. "Are you an administrator, nurse? Do you understand the financial ecosystem that allows you to have a job? Or do you just draw a paycheck and question the decisions of those who make this institution possible?" Sarah flinches as if struck. "No, You just will return to your duties," Eleanor cuts her off. "And you will remember your place. The public humiliation is swift and brutal." Sarah's face burns with shame, and she gives Marcus a helpless, apologetic look before scurrying away, defeated. Eleanor turns her full, undivided attention back to Marcus. She has made her point to the staff. Now, to dispose of the problem. "As I was saying," she says, her voice returning to its smooth, dismissive tone. "We simply do not have a suitable place for your mother at this time." "Suitable." Marcus repeats the word, his voice laced with a new, harder edge. "She needs a bed and a heart monitor. What about that isn't suitable?" Eleanor sighs, a theatrical display of exhausted patience. It is the sigh of a queen explaining complex state matters to a stable boy. "Perhaps I'm not being clear. St. Jude's caters to a specific demographic. There are other facilities in this city. Public hospitals. I'm sure one of them would be better suited to your circumstances." The threat hangs in the air, polished and cruel. A county hospital. Everyone knows what that means. Overcrowded, underfunded, a place where the sick go to be forgotten. For a woman with Evelyn's fragile health, it would be a death sentence. Marcus feels a cold rage coiling in his stomach. It is an old, familiar anger, one he has learned to control, to channel, to hide behind a mask of weary calm. But now, watching his mother's labored breathing, hearing the casual cruelty of this woman, the mask begins to crack. He makes one last appeal, not to her humanity, he can see she has none, but to the history of this very building. "My mother," he says, his voice thick with emotion, "was a nurse. In this hospital. She worked the night shift in the pediatric wing for 40 years. 40 years. She gave her life to this place. He expects this to register. A flicker of recognition, perhaps. A moment of institutional respect. He is wrong. Eleanor Vance throws her head back and laughs. It is not a sound of mirth. It is a sharp, ugly bark of derision. A nurse, she says, wiping a tear of manufactured amusement from the corner of her eye. How quaint. A lovely sentiment, I'm sure, but that doesn't buy you a key to the kingdom, sir. 40 years of service gets you a pension and a plaque, not a penthouse suite. She leans in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that is somehow more insulting than her laugh. Perhaps if she'd been a doctor, a chief of surgery, we could talk. Someone who actually mattered. But a nurse? She shrugs, a final, dismissive gesture. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have important people to attend to. People who actually built this place. And that is it. The line. The moral event horizon from which there is no return. The insult to his mothers for decades of sacrifice. The supreme, cosmic irony of her final statement. People who actually built this place. Something in Marcus Thorne shifts. The anxiety in his eyes vanishes, extinguished like a candle flame. It is replaced by something ancient and cold. The quiet, desperate man is gone. In his place stands someone else entirely. Eleanor sees the change and misinterprets it as defeat. She smiles, a victor's smile. Security, she calls out, turning her back on him. Please escort Mr. Thorne and his mother to the discharge area. We can arrange a transfer to County General. 2 guards start to move forward, their expressions apologetic but firm. And then, a sound cuts through the lobby. A shrill, insistent ring. It is not a normal phone. It is coming from Eleanor's own pocket, from the private cell phone she carries, the one with a number known only to the board chairman and her husband. It almost never rings. Annoyed by the interruption to her moment of triumph, she yanks the phone from her blazer. She glances at the screen. Chairman Sterling. Her entire demeanor transforms in a nanosecond. The icy arrogance melts away, replaced by a sycophantic, honey-sweet warmth. William! What a surprise, she coos into the phone, turning her back to Marcus as if he no longer exists. To what do I owe the pleasure? She listens. The lobby is silent, watching her. They see the progression of emotions on her face as if it were a film. The sweet smile falters. It is replaced by confusion. Then, by dawning horror. The color drains from her cheeks, leaving her face a ghastly, powdered white. Her perfectly manicured hand begins to tremble. The phone slips from her grasp and clatters onto the marble floor. She does not seem to notice. She slowly, mechanically, turns around. She looks at Marcus Thorne. But she does not see a poor man in worn clothes anymore. She sees him through the chairman's words, now echoing in the silent, screaming cavern of her mind. Eleanor, the new chairman of the board, is in your lobby. He's been trying to get his mother a room. His name is Marcus Thorne. You will give him whatever he wants. And then you will come to my office. Immediately. The world tilts on its axis. The polished floors of her kingdom suddenly feel like thin ice over a very, very deep ocean. Marcus has not moved. But he seems larger now, his quiet stillness no longer a sign of meekness but of immense, terrifying power. His eyes, which she had dismissed as weary and sad, are now revealed to be what they truly are, the eyes of a predator who has just watched its prey walk calmly and stupidly into a trap. Security, Marcus says, his voice no louder than before, but now it cracks through the lobby like a whip. Stand down. The guards freeze, their eyes darting from Marcus to the shell-shocked Eleanor, their internal compass of authority spinning widely before settling, with finality, on the man in the faded jacket. They take a half-step back. Eleanor opens her mouth, but only a dry, croaking sound emerges. She stammers. You can't be. Marcus takes a step toward her. He pulls his own phone from his pocket, a simple, unassuming device. He taps the screen a few times, then holds it up. His voice is calm, precise, and utterly devoid of mercy. "Nurse Sarah," he calls out. The young nurse, who had been hovering near the edge of the scene, looks up, startled. "Please see that my mother, Evelyn Thorne, is moved to the Serenity Wing. Penthouse Suite 1. The corner suite with the garden view." He turns the phone so the nurse can see it. "Authorize it with my code. Thorne Alpha 1. Sarah, looking utterly bewildered, approaches. She takes the phone and speaks to the admissions desk, reading the code. A moment later, the admissions clerk's eyes go wide. She nods vigorously. It's a chairman's override code," the clerk whispers, loud enough for everyone to hear. "It's confirmed." A team of nurses and orderlies materializes as if from nowhere, their efficiency and deference a stark contrast to the earlier indifference. They begin to gently prepare Evelyn for transport, their movements swift and professional. Marcus never takes his eyes off Eleanor. "You mentioned a priority list," he says, his voice a low, dangerous hum. "The one for your patrons. I'd like to see it." That's confidential," Eleanor whispers, her mind grasping for any remaining scrap of authority. "Not anymore," Marcus says. He taps on his phone again, bringing up a document. He doesn't show it to her. He just reads from it. "Let's see." At the top of the list for the Serenity Wing, your sister, scheduled for elective cosmetic surgery. Your cousin, for the rest and observation after a golf trip. The son of a city councilman who is sponsoring your zoning variance, here for a routine physical. He looks up from the phone, his eyes locking with hers. Meanwhile, a pediatric burn victim from the South Side was denied a transfer here yesterday because her mother's insurance was out of network. She's currently in a hallway at County General. Is that part of the financial ecosystem you were talking about? Eleanor sways on her feet. This is impossible. This information is buried deep in the hospital's secure servers. Access is restricted to her and a handful of trusted subordinates. How did you get that?" she breathes. "I have the master key," Marcus says simply. He continues his methodical demolition. "You also have a very enterprising head of admissions. Mr. Gable, isn't it?" He glances across the lobby, where a portly, sweating man in an expensive suit is trying to blend into the wall. Mr. Gable has been running a charming little side business. For a donation of $5,000 cash, he can move certain patients up the organ transplant list. I have a recording of him making just such an offer to the wife of a man who needed a new kidney. Marcus pauses, letting the weight of his words settle over the stunned crowd. The man died last week. His wife had mortgaged their house to pay Mr. Gable. She's now a widow, and she's about to be homeless. Mr. Gable lets out a small, strangled cry and makes a break for the exit. He doesn't get 2 steps before the 2 security guards, now eager to prove their loyalty to the new power, intercept him, each taking an arm. Eleanor watches it all, her world dissolving into a nightmare. This isn't just an exposure. This is an autopsy. And she is the corpse on the table. Her mind finally snaps. The last vestiges of her composure shatter, and raw, shrieking panic takes over. This is a lie. All of it, she screams, her voice a shrill, ugly thing. A misunderstanding. You can't just come in here and... I run this hospital. The desperation in her voice is pathetic. The declaration of power, once a statement of fact, is now a child's plea. No, Marcus says, his voice cutting through her hysterics like a surgeon's scalpel. You ran this hospital. He turns his back on her, a gesture of ultimate dismissal, and walks over to his mother's gurney. He takes Evelyn's hand, his touch gentle. It's okay, Mom, he whispers, his voice for her alone, filled with a love and tenderness that the rest of the lobby has not heard. We're going to take care of you now. You're home. Just then, the great glass doors of the main entrance swing open with a soft whoosh. William Sterling, the outgoing chairman of the board, strides in. He is an older man, with a shock of white hair and a reputation for quiet, unimpeachable integrity. he is flanked by two people, a man and a woman, dressed in severe, dark suits that scream federal government. Sterling's eyes scan the chaotic scene in the lobby. Eleanor, wild-eyed and disheveled, Mr. Gable, held firmly by security, the stunned staff, and Marcus, standing calmly by his mother's side. He ignores everyone else and walks directly to Marcus. "Mr. Thorne," he says, his voice booming with authority and regret. "I am so profoundly sorry for this reception. I was in a meeting across town. I came as soon as I heard. Is your mother being cared for?" "She is now, William," Marcus replies, his tone respectful but firm. "Thank you for coming." Sterling nods, then turns. His gaze falls upon Eleanor Vance, and all the warmth drains from his face, leaving only a frigid, righteous anger. "Eleanor," he says, and her name is an indictment. "Your employment with St. Jude's Medical Center is terminated, effective immediately. Your access codes have been revoked. Your accounts have been frozen." He gestures to the two people in suits who have moved to stand on either side of her. These are Agents Davies and Ryland from the Office of the Inspector General for the Department of Health and Human Services. They have been conducting a quiet investigation into this hospital's billing practices for the last 6 months, an investigation I authorized at the request of our new majority shareholder. He looks pointedly at Marcus. "It seems they have found substantial evidence of Medicare fraud, patient endangerment, and a conspiracy to deny care based on non-medical factors. They have some questions for you. I suggest you answer them." Agent Davies steps forward. She is a no-nonsense woman with eyes that miss nothing. "Eleanor Vance," she says, her voice flat and official. "You need to come with us. Now." They do not handcuff her. Not yet. The public humiliation is more subtle and far more devastating. One of the security guards, the one who had moved to eject Marcus, now steps forward and, with visible reluctance, asks for her ID badge. Eleanor stares at him, her mind refusing to process the request. He is her guard. Her employee. He is asking for her badge. She slowly, mechanically, unclips it from the lapel of her designer suit and hands it over. The plastic card, the symbol of her entire identity, is gone. She is nobody. The agents begin to lead her away, a disgraced queen being paraded through the ruins of her court. She walks past the faces of the nurses, the doctors, the janitors, the people she terrorized and belittled for years. They are not gloating. Their expressions are a mixture of shock, fear, and a dawning relief. As she reaches the doors, she stops for one last, desperate look back. Her eyes find Marcus. Her face is a mask of pure, uncomprehending hatred. "Who are you?" she whispers, the question a ragged tear in the silence. "Really?" Marcus watches her, his expression unreadable. When he speaks, his voice is clear and strong, carrying to every corner of the now silent lobby a final judgment delivered in his own court. "You asked who built this place," he begins, his words deliberate and heavy with meaning. "I did." A collective gasp ripples through the crowd. "My firm, Thorne Design Group, was the architect for the Serenity Wing. I designed every room, every hallway, every window that lets in the morning sun. I poured my soul into making it a place of healing, not a private club for the wealthy." He takes a step forward. "I'm the son of the woman who gave 40 years of her life mopping floors and holding the hands of sick children in this hospital. A woman you dismissed as a nobody." His voice rises, filled with a righteous fire that makes the air crackle. "And for the last 6 months, I have been using the profits from my work to quietly buy up this hospital stock. As of 9 a.m. this morning, I am the majority shareholder and the incoming chairman of the board." He delivers the final, devastating blow. "I am the man who just bought your kingdom, Eleanor. And I bought it for one reason, to make sure that people like you can never, ever hurt people like my mother again." He turns his back on her for the last time and focuses on his mother, who is now being wheeled toward the elevators. Eleanor Vance stares at his back, the full, crushing weight of her arrogance collapsing in on her. She didn't just insult a man. She insulted her boss. Her judge. Her executioner. The federal agents gently but firmly guide her out the door, into the harsh, unforgiving light of a world she no longer controls. The fallout is not a storm. It is a biblical flood. A cleansing fire that sweeps through the corrupted halls of St. Jude's, leaving nothing of the old regime but ash. Eleanor Vance, stripped of her power and her pride, discovers that the legal system she so expertly manipulated from the outside is a very different beast from within. She is charged with a litany of federal crimes, conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud, violations of the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, and racketeering. The evidence, meticulously collected by Marcus's auditors and the Inspector General's office, is overwhelming. Voicemails, emails, and falsified documents paint a picture of a woman who systematically prioritized profit over patients, treating human lives as entries on a balance sheet. Her high-priced lawyers try to argue that she was simply a shrewd administrator making tough business decisions. The jury, composed of ordinary citizens, the very kind of people Eleanor would have dismissed, sees it differently. They see her arrogance. They hear the testimony of Nurse Sarah, who speaks with quiet courage about the culture of fear and intimidation. They hear from the widow of the man who died waiting for a kidney, her voice breaking as she recounts her dealings with Mr. Gable. They see a video deposition from a frail but resolute Evelyn Thorne, recorded from her hospital bed, describing the years of dedication she gave to St. Jude's, a place that, in her hour of need, tried to cast her aside. The verdict is swift and unanimous. Guilty. On all counts. The judge, a woman known for her stern demeanor and her intolerance for corruption in positions of public trust, makes an example of her. You were entrusted with the health and well-being of a community, the judge says, her voice ringing through the silent courtroom. You turned a sanctuary of healing into a marketplace of misery, where the price of admission was wealth and the penalty for poverty was neglect or worse. Your crime was not just financial, it was a profound moral failure. Eleanor Vance is sentenced to 15 years in a federal prison. Not a minimum security at Club Fed, but a stark, gray facility in West Virginia. Her assets, including her sprawling mansion and luxury cars, are seized under forfeiture laws. The platinum-framed photo of her with the governor is thrown into a dumpster during the asset seizure. Mr. Gable, the head of admissions, sings like a canary to save his own skin. His testimony implicates a dozen other mid-level managers and 2 board members from the old guard. He still receives a sentence of 10 years for his role in the transplant scandal. The complicit board members are forced to resign in disgrace, their names forever tarnished. They pay massive fines and are barred from ever serving on a corporate or non-profit board again. The hospital itself is placed under a period of intense federal oversight. But the punishments are only one side of the equation. On the other side is restoration. Marcus Thorne, as the new chairman, does not just clean house. He rebuilds it from the foundation up, on a new cornerstone of compassion. His first act is to promote Nurse Sarah to the newly created position of Director of Patient Advocacy. She is given a corner office, a staff of 10, and a budget that makes the other department heads weep with envy. Her mandate is simple and absolute: every single patient who enters St. Jude's is to be treated with dignity and receive the best possible care, regardless of their ability to pay. She becomes a legend within the hospital, a fierce and tireless champion for the voiceless. Evelyn Thorne recovers slowly but steadily in the penthouse suite of the wing her son designed. She is doted on by the staff, many of whom are old friends and colleagues who are overjoyed to see her treated like the royalty she is. When she is strong enough, Marcus holds a ceremony in the main lobby. He unveils a new name for the Serenity Wing. It is now the Evelyn Thorne Pavilion. Beneath the name, a bronze plaque is installed. It does not list donors or benefactors. It reads, "Dedicated to the 40 years of quiet, compassionate service of Nurse Evelyn Thorne, and to all the caregivers whose names are not on buildings, but are written on the hearts of the lives they touch." But Marcus's work extends beyond the walls of St. Jude's. Using the millions of dollars seized from Eleanor's illegal enterprise, he establishes the Evelyn Thorne Foundation for Patient Equity. Its mission is to fight the kind of injustice his mother faced on a systemic level. The foundation provides grants to underfunded public hospitals, pays the medical debts of families on the brink of bankruptcy, and funds a team of lawyers who challenge insurance denials and discriminatory hospital policies across the country. The pediatric burn victim who was turned away from St. Jude's on the day of the incident becomes one of the foundation's first beneficiaries. She is flown by private medical jet to the best burn center in the country, her treatment paid for in full. Her mother receives a personal call from Marcus Thorne, who apologizes on behalf of a system that failed her and promises to spend the rest of his life making it right. St. Jude's Medical Center, once a symbol of elitist healthcare, becomes a national model for compassionate, patient-centered medicine. Its reputation is not just restored, it is reborn. 1 year later, the lobby of the Evelyn Thorne Pavilion is bright and humming with a new kind of energy. The cold, museum-like silence is gone, replaced by the gentle, purposeful bustle of a place dedicated to life. Director Sarah Jenkins moves through the crowd with a confident smile, pausing to speak with a nervous family, her hand on a patient's shoulder, her presence a reassurance that they are in a safe place. Her word is law here, a law rooted in empathy. Marcus Thorne stands near the water feature, the one Eleanor had seen as mere decoration. He is not wearing a suit. He is in his usual simple clothes, a faded jacket over a plain shirt. He is talking with his mother. Evelyn is in a wheelchair, but her eyes are bright, her cheeks have color, and her hand is steady as it rests on his. She is not a patient anymore. She is a volunteer. 3 days a week, she sits in this lobby and talks to people who are scared and confused, just as she and Marcus were a year ago. She tells them her story. She tells them they are in the right place. She tells them they will be cared for. Marcus looks around at the world he has built, a world born from a moment of profound injustice. He sees doctors and nurses moving with a renewed sense of purpose. He sees patients of every color, every class, every background, all being treated with the same level of urgent care. He sees a system not of privilege, but of purpose. Eleanor Vance saw a man in worn clothes and judged him unworthy. It was the fatal, blinding flaw of her arrogance. She could not conceive of a world where power did not announce itself with expensive suits and loud commands. She saw a problem to be dismissed, not the architect of her own downfall. She believed power was a fortress, a high wall to keep the unworthy out. Marcus Thorne understood the truth. True power is not a fortress. It is a bridge. It is the quiet, unshakable resolve to stand up for those who cannot, to dismantle the walls of prejudice and greed, and to build something better in their place. Justice, in the end, was not just about the satisfying spectacle of Eleanor's fall. It was about the quiet, daily miracle of Evelyn's rise, and the thousands of others who would now be cared for in the house that justice, and a son's love, rebuilt.